So today we're going to draw a skull using our Arteza cold press watercolor pad and these woodless watercolor pencils, as well as the brushes, the plastic brushes that come with the water already inside, and it's really nice. You just press it here. You have a pretty direct control over how much water you're dispensing into your brush. All right, so let's get started. We're gonna start by, let me get this closer to here. All right, so we're gonna start by drawing a circle. We almost always start by drawing a circle. And this circle is going to be the foundation for the skull, basically. Let me draw a little harder so you guys can see it better. There we go. Cool. So that's done. We're going to draw a smaller circle within this circle. And we're going to picture this circle, this oval-ish circle that we're going to draw here, as being the side of the head, because it's going to give us reference for where the eyes would end, and it's going to give us reference for things having to do with the jawline and so on and so forth. So we're going to picture like this is the side of the head, and we're going to draw it accordingly. See? Cool. So now, down the middle of this, we're going to draw a line and curve it. And this is going to be the basis for the skull. And here we're going to draw a horizontal line, and that's going to define where our eyes are going to go. Now, from here, from the center of where the eyes would go, right? The eyes would be like around, or the eye sockets in this case, since it's a skull and skulls don't have eyes because they're dead. So the eye sockets are going to be here. And the nose on people, when you're looking at a person, your nose starts in between your eyes, right? It doesn't start all the way down here, it doesn't start up here. It starts in between your eyes. So we're going to, obviously, like the bone structure for your nose is going to start again in between your eyes. So when we draw it, we're going to bring it from up here, our line. And then we're going to draw a triangle. It's kind of like the Star Trek symbol. And that's the beginning of the skull. Now here, skulls have cheeks, actually. You would think not, but they do. We're going to give ourselves an idea of where the cheeks are going to be. There's going to be an indent here. And then here, we're going to draw where we're going to figure the teeth and the jawline and stuff is going to go. So in order to draw the teeth, I think the best method that we have for it is to just draw these lines like this that kind of define where you're going to, the direction and the shape in which the teeth are going to be. So I think that I have, at least like in my experience, I found this the most useful. And then it's going to go in a little bit, and then it's going to come back out, and then you're going to have your jawline. But this is something that we're going to get more specific on later. As you're drawing, you always want to, the more you draw, the more references, like as you progress in making a singular drawing, you have more references regarding where other things are going to go. So as you're drawing, you want to keep correcting. For example, like here, I know that my jawline is going to end here, so I want to expand the back of the skull a little bit so that it looks more, so that I have the back of the head a little bit more. I feel like it's more realistic, and it makes more sense anatomically if I do this, but I didn't know that until I drew the jawline down here. Cool. So that's a start. And now the teeth is going to take a little bit of memorizing. Basically, you have your two front teeth. And you're going to draw those. Actually, this line that you use down here is also going to be the midline for the teeth. Now, don't draw the whole tooth because shading is important. So when you draw the whole tooth, you do this, right? And that looks like buck teeth, because when you do that, you're creating a strong line here. and then it creates a stronger separation between these two. And you don't want that because teeth tend to be closer together, unless you want your skull to have buck teeth, then go for it. Because that is something that some people would actually like. So the two center teeth are the two biggest ones. Then you have two teeth that go in the middle. Because the skull is at an angle, we're not looking at it straight on forward. What's going to happen is that this is going to be the end of the teeth. And this one I am going to circle off because, again, it's the end. It reaches the corner. So behind this tooth, I'm not going to see any more teeth. And now what it's going to happen is that we're going to draw, this is going to be the fang. It's going to be a little bit bigger. And then you just, from the fang on backwards, there's going to be, I think it's 5 little bumps. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And that's going to be the end of your teeth. Now, that's going to be your upper layer. Basically, all of these little bumps, you have to just kind of mentally think, okay, this is going to be this tooth, this is going to be this tooth, this is going to be this tooth. If you're well versed in teeth, this is going to come really easy to you. If not, you just have to kind of remember it. But the top set of bumps is, once that's done, what you're going to do is that you're going to create the bottom set of bumps. And this is just going to be like the bottom end of the teeth. And you want to line them up very well with this. So you want to give yourself an idea that this is like that, and that this would end here. You want to create the connection here to here inside your head and not actually draw it. Because we're going to draw it later. Maybe. And then this is a canine, so it's going to be sharp. It's going to be like its fang. And these are molars, so they're going to be a little bit rounder. Now we're going to do the same exact procedure for the bottom teeth. You create the 2 little ones. Actually, something that tends to happen a lot is that they will angle outwards. If you want to do that, all you have to do is point it forward, basically. Like, instead of making the line straight, like this, you'd make the line like this, so it could come out a little bit forward. And then this tooth, and then the fang, right? And then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then there's going to be one more tooth here, there. And then you create your top layer of bumps. Again, remember to align them. It's so important that you align them because otherwise it's just a bunch of arbitrary bumps. And when you go back later on to connect them, it's not gonna make any sense and it's just going to look weird. So you wanna make sure they're well aligned. There's gonna be the fang, so it's gonna be pointy. These are teeth and these are molars. There we go. Now, teeth are connected to your skull. So there are points in your skull that are curved and shaped so as to accommodate your teeth. So you're gonna actually have to do that a little bit here. So using your teeth as a reference, again, like when you're drawing, everything that you draw is a reference to something else. So it's going to give you an idea of where something else is going to be located. So as you have these teeth, it's kind of like math. As you have these teeth right here, you want to create these little indents because that's where the teeth were actually founded originally when they were part of the, as they were coming out of the skull. So there we go. And they're going to do sort of the same thing, but to a lesser extent at the top. And actually, now that we have this sort of setup, we can do a little bit of, very, very softly, mind you, you can separate the teeth a little bit. But I usually leave this for the end because otherwise you run the risk of making these lines too harsh and then it looks really bad and you don't want to do that because you don't want your drawing to look bad. Cool. So here, what I did right now was I just formed the cheek. You don't have to be wildly precise about it. All you have to do is basically give yourself an idea more or less what a cheek would look like and the kind of shape that you want. different people have different shaped bone structures for their cheeks, so that's that. Then you want to do the same thing on this side. And actually here you have to remember that this is going to cast a shadow. Now, what happens here is that this goes backwards, back into the skull, but there's going to be a little gap here. I'm not entirely sure. Actually, this is going to go downwards a little bit more. I'm not entirely sure, but I think that's basically the gap for where your ear is supposed to begin and how it gets connected into your brain. But that's going to be there. And then there's going to be a lot of shading here. You can give yourself that idea. So or just mentally remember it. I like to make these lines sometimes because it helps me remember that, okay, this part is going to be darker, that part is not going to be darker. So like right here, etc. Now this is going to be part of the upper skull, right? But this is a bone that's going to come from under here. And at this point, you can just sort of draw the sharper lines for the jawline and stuff because we're pretty much done with it. Again, try not to make really hard lines until you're pretty much done because you're not sure. Like, erasing really hard lines is harder and they leave marks, and it's going to make your drawing messy if you're constantly erasing them, because until you're entirely sure that that line is going to stay there, don't make it very harsh. There we go. And here. What I'm doing right here is that it comes out a little bit, like to explain the curvature that I'm doing right here. It's something that's going to be very, very mild, so you might barely notice it, but there's a tiny little bump here, and that's basically your brow bone. It's going to come out a little bit right there. And that's going to be your brow bone. And now we just we can redraw the holes for this eye sockets. And here. And this is not like superficial. Like, give yourself the idea that this goes inwards. This is a channel. It's a hole like that. It's like a cave. But the reason why we indent it forward is because the reason why we tend to do this whole little shape where it's like that is because the part that goes in through here is the thing that separates your two nostrils. So there's going to be a little extra bone there. Okay, and that's basically the drawing of the skull. Then we can go on to coloring it. Also, if you want to erase your guidelines, I always tend to forget to do that. So don't be me, because it makes your drawing look very bad and very messy once you get into coloring. I have a tendency for forgetting that happens. Just very gently, very gingerly erase your guidelines. All right, fantastic. A note on guidelines is that a lot of people don't like working with them because they think that they're for beginners, or they think that they make your drawings look messy. It's so important to use guidelines, not because like, oh yeah, we want to belittle you or whatever, but they're so important because they give you so much reference when you have virtually nothing. Like when you have a blank piece of paper and you don't know where anything is supposed to go. Yeah, after you've been drawing something for ages and your muscle memory kind of remembers where things are supposed to go. Like for example, like I can draw a face without guidelines, but that's only because I've drawn a million faces in the past and my muscle memory hasn't very well like memorized. But otherwise, like anything else that I draw needs to have guidelines, like this for example. So now we're gonna get into the coloring of it. All right. So I'll see you guys later, and I hope you liked this video. If you found it useful, please remember to subscribe and give it a thumbs up. But yeah, I'll see you guys later.